Let's paint a peony in watercolor. I like to use large brushes. This is a Raphael soft aqua brush and it is size 16. Supplies are going to be listed in the comments. And that's what I'm using. I'm using Fabriano Studio Watercolor Cold Press 140 pound watercolor paper, and let's get to it. I love peonies. I'm using a hot pink. This is an opera pink. And I'm gonna load my brush up with a lot of water and color, and I'm just going to press and pull into that petal shape. And it can drip and it can kind of melt together, and that is okay. I'm gonna leave some space in between the petals, but it's the press and pull that you wanna try. Now I'm going to grab another color. I'm gonna add a little bit more red into my color, and I'm just gonna get in here and add these little like extra petals on the sides just to add a little bit of variation to the petals. Now I'm gonna add a little more red, and I'm gonna do the side petals, and then I'm gonna make the petal that kind of comes towards us, that comes down. So I'm gonna swoop down. The whole time I've got a lot of paint on my brush and a lot of water, and I'm just kind of letting it flow. These are very loose. And when I want it to be lighter, I just add more water. When I want it to be darker, I just add more paint. And a lot of times I'll just dip my brush into my water and just kind of smudge around my colors. Now I need to wait for this to dry. So I'm gonna wait for it to dry, and while it's drying, I'm going to add the stem. This is where I'm just gonna use the very tip of my brush. I am barely touching my paper, and I just swoop that stem right down. Sorry, I'm left-handed and you can't really see what I'm doing, but you'll be able to see the leaf on the other side. And what I'm doing is I'm kind of just making these leaves that have these little pokies on the sides and using these little pokies to make a leaf. I'm using a dark green color, like a hunter green. You can use any color that you want. And now I'm getting in there with a brighter yellowy green. I'm just dropping some color in there to add some variation. I'm again gonna wait for this to dry. I'm gonna add some of these little swoopies down at the bottom. This is my scientific name for this. My little leaves underneath. And if your flower is not a little bit dry, then don't do it, because it could mess up your flower and get into the flower. But if that happens, that's okay. These are really loose watercolor flowers, and that's totally what can happen. So here is my basic shape for my stem and my leaves. And I'm just gonna drop in some more color, and then when it is dry, I'm going to add a little bit of detail, but not too much, because I want this to stay kind of loose. So it can look like this while you're letting it dry. Your color can kind of be not uniform, and that's completely fine. You just want it to be loose and let the color dry how it does and see what happens. So the next thing we are going to do is we're going to get in here with a brownish color, a brownish red, or even a black. It's up to you. It's just a darker color. And I'm going to add these little dots, and these are the little, what is it, the pistils and stamen? I don't even know. See if I can remember my science. Coming out of the top of the flower, dot, dot, dot. And then I'm going to use the very tip of my brush, and I'm just going to use that to make some thin lines that go down from the little dots into the flower. And again, this is abstract. This is very loose. It doesn't have to be realistic. So I'm just adding those little dots, and I'm making sure that this is kind of a rust color so it matches the rest of the flower. And then while that dries, I am going to go in here and I'm going to add some detail to the petals. So getting in here with a little bit darker of a hot pink, and I'm just adding some of those petals. I'm just kind of defining the direction and adding in some low lights to add dimension and showing kind of which direction the petals go. And honestly, you're just adding blobs. You can't really go wrong with this. This is not super realistic. So as long as you're varying the color, light and dark, you're gonna make it look great. Next, I'm gonna go in with a little bit of a darker color on the leaves and the stem, and I'm just gonna add some shadows and some interesting marks to just add variation and interest. And you can drop in some different colors of green if you want to. You could even use white, like a white pen, to add highlights and details to your flower if you want. I'm just gonna go in and add a couple more of these details, and then I am done. My peony's done, and that's it. If you like this video, subscribe and come back and watch more of my videos.